Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo va la vaina allá por Nueva York? How's it going, everyone? I think we're live. I think I see myself here on the Facebook page. So I think everything is good to go. Welcome to this editing talk. My name is Joaquin Elizondo, and I am a film and TV editor and mentor. I've been editing now for with 20 years. Um, I started off in local news back in San Diego. I grew up in San Diego, California. I actually grew up. Grew up in San Diego and Tijuana, Mexico. So I grew up along the border region, and so I would often, I lived in Tijuana, and I would cross, into the U.S. into San Diego to go to school, go to work. But that's kind of like the area where I grew up in. And so after college, I went to the University of Michigan, and then I went back to San Diego, Tijuana, and I started working in local news, Univision, Telemundo, as an editor, videographer. I originally wanted to be a DP, a director of photography, cinematographer, and I just, that was my focus. I knew editing, I knew the software at that time. That was, like I said, 20 years ago. I was, you're starting to kind of see the transition to nonlinear editing. Final Cut was big. I think Final Cut 4 probably back then. And so I knew it, but I didn't really, my focus was always cinematography or photography, videography. I worked in local news for about 3 years there, and then started working in promos and in commercials again locally in San Diego. And, I always had an urge to just kind of work on bigger projects. I wanted to leave San Diego, wanted to go to a bigger market. And so I went to New York City, NYC, spent some time there in Astoria, Queens, and was there for 5 years. And yeah, I definitely, was able to get on bigger projects. I worked for HBO Sports a little bit, doing a lot of their pay-per-view boxing. And so that was really fun because I'm a big fan of boxing. And so I got to travel around to big fights and again, shooting and editing. And so I also spent some time I did some local news there as well. Telemundo 47 in Fort Lee. Brings back some memories crossing that GW Bridge. And so spent some time there as well. And then eventually became the lead editor on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And around that time, I had also shot and edited a documentary. And I think at that time is when I realized that I was not connecting with cinematography. I was really connecting with editing, realized that cinematography was not for me. I was not feeling it. I was not good enough. I just, but you got to kind of at some point say, you know what, this is not for you. And I realized how I just connected with editing. To be honest, it was just fun to be sitting at an office and have air conditioning and catering and not having to carry around gear all day in the humid New York City summer and the winters. No, but really, I connected with it a lot more and realized that was where my strengths kind of lied in editing, post-production. And so I stuck with it, especially there with Andy Cohen at Watch What Happens Live. That was my first kind of like just strictly editing job. And from then on, I think I really focused then on editing. I think, this was in 2012, around there, I think. And from then on, I became a full-time editor. One of the biggest challenges for me at that time was to become a freelancer out of anything, because I had a staff job for a while in San Diego. And so to transition to simply just being a freelancer was very tough for me. But eventually worked out. I had a very successful career in New York. I was doing good. I just had a lot of work. And I just decided to stick to editing. But you know what? I always wanted to be work in film and in scripted television. That was always my dream. That's like back in the day since I was a kid. I always wanted to work in Hollywood. I just never knew how to do it. I never knew what steps to take. I mean, obviously I saw people working on films. There was people doing it. And I just never, but I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know if it was possible. Well, I knew it was possible, but I just simply, for me, I just didn't know, like, where do I go? Where do I look? It's not like you see these job postings anywhere online. And so I eventually left New York and then went to LA. I just wanted to go back west, be closer to my family, and I figured, I think even at that time when I went to LA, I still was not even thinking really about switching or trying to transition to Hollywood films and scripted TV shows. But when I got to LA, it was, I realized that this is a different town. I currently live in LA right now. It's a different town. It works very different than New York. The industry is much different. I got to say, I was a little bit too overly confident when I came from New York, given that I had such a successful career in New York. I thought I was just going to transfer over to LA. I was going to get here, find jobs. It was not that. Para nada. It was very difficult. That my first year in LA was very, very, very tough. I could not find work. No one would give me a shot. Even though I had experience, but I think looking at it now, I think my experience in editing was all over the place. I mean, I had done, I said local news, commercials, promos, talk shows, sports. And I think in LA, it's such an industry town. And there's so much production that people want to find someone who has, say, you've done docuseries, you've done reality, you've done promos. I mean, you could find here anyone who specializes in that. There's so many people here looking for jobs in the entertainment industry, but specifically post-production and editing. It's very competitive. So quickly I realized that like the experience that I had, say, at that time from San Diego, New York, was not gonna transfer necessarily to LA. I did not have contacts, nothing. I knew really no one here as far as in a professional network. And so I, at that time, realized, hey, after a year, I was not getting work. And I said to myself, well, I'm here in Hollywood. I always wanted to work in Hollywood films and scripted TV shows. I don't have anything going on right now, so might as well just give it a shot. And I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. And so I was willing to be either a post-production assistant, work for free, whatever it would take, because I had nothing. And so I figured that I had nothing to lose, and so I'll just do whatever it takes to get into Hollywood films and scripted TV shows. But I had no network, and at that time I just simply did not know how to do it. Like, again, these jobs you do not find online. You don't find these postings. They don't exist. So what did I start to do? This was just kind of trial and error, making a lot of mistakes. I quickly realized that it was about networking. It was a lot about networking. It's all who you know, and it's an industry built on relationships. So I started hitting the pavement, and I started just meeting as many people as I could that were working in film and TV, and I was just out there hustling. I mean, knocking on doors, going to a lot of mixers, a lot of panels, like kind of this stuff. Obviously, at that time, or before we had to be stuck at home, doing these virtual panels. But I was going to mixers, panels, just telling people, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And if I met someone that had done it, or it was a successful editor, or even an assistant editor, I would ask them for advice, or ask them just simply, hi, how did you do it? And so it was just everything it was all trial and error, from writing my resume, from writing, outreach emails to people, everything I just learned by doing it, by just simply and making mistakes. I mean, I realized that, say, writing an outreach email, say like a cold email to someone, say I want to meet with an editor, I want to meet with a producer. There's like a way to do it. There's a way to write an email so that people can respond and engage with you, and possibly you get a meeting. There's an art to that. My resume was not communicating the right experience. I mean, it was just all these things that I had to figure out by just looking at examples, and just, again, trial and error. I was rejected so much. It was so much rejection, but I always knew that, again, I knew that I always wanted to work in Hollywood. And given that I had nothing at that time, I just simply had nothing to lose. I just decided that this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. This is my dream. And so I'm going to figure it out. I kept pushing, just meeting more people, and eventually started getting work here and there. One of the things that I did not know when I got to LA was about this union, the Motion Picture Editors Guild, that if you want to work in Hollywood films and or scripted TV shows, you have to be part of the union. I did not know anything about this union. And so I met someone for a beer, and we're talking, and he's like, hey man, first thing you got to do is join the union. I'm like, what's that? So he told me, and given that I was already an editor for a while, it was easy for me to get into the union. And once I did that, I was on the roster. I was eligible to work on union shows. But I still was not getting work. So I figured that, and this is, I think, comes from advice. I'll tell you one piece of advice that I got from two people, Cameron Crowe, Oscar-winning screenwriter and director, and also Joey McMillan, who was nominated for an Oscar for editing Moonlight. They said to me, when you stop making it about the money, that's when you're going to see things start to happen. And so what that means was, or what that meant was, that I was always focused on making decisions or getting jobs simply for a paycheck. To me, the only thing that mattered was, what was my rate? What was I going to get paid? And so what they meant was that, hey, go find maybe jobs, say like in indie films or indie projects that are more narrative or dealing with narrative filmmaking, and meet people there, get that experience. Sure, you're not going to make probably the same amount of money, but you're going to get the right experience and you're going to meet the right people. So when that hit me, I was like, all right, I get it now. And I started working in indie features. Of course, I was not making anywhere near what I was making before as an editor, because I had to be an assistant. That's another thing. I realized that I would have to be an assistant editor, as they say, take a step back, in order for me to get an opportunity as I should say, to break into Hollywood, because breaking in as an editor was going to be very difficult, given my experience and given that I just new to LA. And so that's the first thing. I had to accept that or realize that, and I was fine with it. For me, it was no problem. To me, I would have been a post-production assistant. I would have worked for free. I didn't care what I was going to do to get in. Finally became an assistant editor. I was working on indie feature films, but they were like tier 0, which means they were very low budget. I was barely making any money. I still could not really pay my bills, but I was getting the right experience and meeting the right people. And so that then led me to other gigs, kind of filling gigs. I would do, work between 2, 3, 4 weeks on a project here and there. So, would bounce around to different projects, but they were either films or scripted TV shows. So yeah, I still was not getting like a long gig or, like a big project, like a full season or like a full feature film, but I was at least getting that type of experience. Eventually I did edit a feature, an indie feature film. But, still it was indie films. But at least, hey, I said it's experience, it's practice. And I can say now that I've cut, a feature film in Hollywood. And so the big turning point for me, and this is a big thing, and I'll get to the point of the story pretty quick. I'm trying to move pretty fast. I made a decision then to work. A job opportunity came up for a documentary on Netflix. And so I applied as an editor. I did not get the job. Then I applied as an assistant editor. I also did not get the job. 0 for 2. And then so 2 weeks later, the post-production, the VP of post, sends me an email and says, hey, I have this position. It's a post-production coordinator. You might not be interested in it, but I'm just throwing it out there in case you want it. And if you don't, maybe you know someone who does. And someone close to me, and I didn't want to take it because I'm like, well, post-production, that's even a further, I should say at that point, I was really burned out with trying. I was not getting opportunities. And I was like, it was a documentary. So even though I would have taken, say, a lower position at anywhere else, I I would have taken it on a film or a scripted TV show, but on a documentary, it was just like, it's not worth it, because it's a documentary. I'm not getting the right experience. And so someone close to me said, hey, you know what? It's a Netflix show. It's big credits. You are here at home editing indie features or working at indie projects. You need to go out there and meet people. You need to go out to an office and create or grow a network. And so I finally said, you know what? You're right. I'm going to take the job. And also, what else was I going to do? I had no money. I needed a job. I don't know why I was being picky. But it's someone sometimes has to be the voice of reason for you. And so I took that job, and it was a great project for Netflix. It was a big credit. And so I was a post-production coordinator. And then eventually the assistant editor left. And so they bumped me up to assistant editor on that project, and I was able to finish out the project. Anyways, after that, again, I go back to looking for work in films and scripted TV shows. And again, I was bouncing around from film to TV show, maybe a week or 2 or 3 here and there. And nothing was, just kind of, out there still hustling, trying to find that big break, that big film or that big scripted TV show. And then eventually, maybe like 3 months after I wrapped on that Netflix documentary, I get an email from this producer and says to me, hey, I saw you worked on this project. It was the day I met El Chapo. The day I met El Chapo, it's on Netflix. And so they were interested. We had a lot of archival footage. It was a documentary. So this producer said to me, hey, I'm looking for a researcher. Can you share your researcher's name? He didn't say what show he was on or anything, but he just said that they're doing something similar. And so I said, yeah, sure. Why not? Whatever. And he found me through IMDb. Got my contact info there. And so eventually, in his email, I saw at the very bottom, this is what really happened. At the very bottom, I saw in his signature, it said something like Narcos Productions. And I'm like, could it be that he works on the show Narcos? And Narcos is one of my favorite shows, or at that time also was one of my favorite shows. So I look him up, obviously, on IMDb, and sure enough, he's a post-producer on Narcos. So I reply with the information for our researcher, and then put at the bottom PS. I said, hey, and if you need an assistant, let me know. And I thought about if I should put that down in the email. But again, I said, I have nothing to lose. What can he say? He won't reply, or just say no. Who cares? Send. And sure enough, he replies and he says, hey, do you speak Spanish and are you in the union? I said, yes. And he says, can you meet Monday? I go, yeah, of course. And so I go meet Monday, and sure enough, it is for Narcos. They're starting at that time was Narcos Mexico season 1. They're gearing up for that, and we hit it off, and I get the job, and I'm in Hollywood, and then things just took off from there. What is my point of the story? Well, from my experience, that is why I created the Hollywood Editing Mentor Program. The Hollywood Editing Mentor Program is something that I created at the start of this pandemic. First of all, because I was working on a show, and I wanted to do something positive with my time. I knew that I could not just sit around waiting for this thing to end. It hasn't ended, and so I knew I just couldn't sit around watching TV or whatever. I needed to do something positive because I had now broken into Hollywood. I reached my, I was doing my, I achieved my dream job, basically. And I knew what it took to get there. I committed a lot of mistakes. It was a lot of trial and error. And I said to myself, well, why don't I create a program or a website, a resource, so that I know people are out there doing the same thing and are encountering the same challenges and obstacles. And I'll create this, resource that just kind of, I write about my experience and what I learned and what I could teach someone or show someone, so that, they don't commit the same mistakes, or just simply save them a lot of time, from having to, go through a lot of trial and error. And so I knew I wanted to do something positive. I knew I wanted to give back because a lot of people I didn't do this alone, I should say. I had a lot of help from good friends, a lot of mentors myself. And so I created the Hollywood Editing Mentor Program. And it is a website. You can find it at hollywoodeditingmentor.com, where you can find a lot of information, just simple advice for anyone that is trying to not only break into Hollywood, but also to maybe start an editing career or start working in post-production and whatever it may be. So documentaries, promos, commercials, anything. I mean, I've done, at this point, I think, I've almost everything. I did start in news. I worked in promos. I worked in commercials, documentaries, talk shows, sports, sizzle reels, you name it, music videos. And so I can talk about those experiences and can share advice. And so that's what it is. That's why I created this Hollywood Editing Mentor Program. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to hopefully see if I can I'm going to try sharing the screen so you can see the website and what it offers. Let's see. Share screen. I'm going to do this. Hopefully this works. I hope it didn't blow things up. I think at this point I am streaming the website. Let me know if anyone is out there. And I can see your comments now. So if you have any questions anytime, please type them, I guess, in the comments. But so here I am. That's me. Joaquin Elizondo, film and TV editor and mentor. I offer this, you can book a free one-on-one session with me, 30 minutes. We can talk about, what you're struggling with, what your challenges are, or maybe, we can develop a plan to work together. I should say, I point out, because the way I'm going to talk about this, I'd rather give you the little bit of background. This is the website. There's a lot of free content on there. There is a lot of advice. There's technical tutorials. I talk about, developing a healthy lifestyle, because that's very important. That's what gives us, helps us stay positive and energized. And it's a big part of staying, of pushing through when the things get kind of tough. I believe in that. And so I do talk about it a lot. So there's a ton of free content on here. I do Facebook Live events where I call it Afternoon Tea with Hollywood Editing Mentor. I'll show you in a bit. And I'm there for an hour and on the Hollywood Editing Mentor Facebook page. And, I'm there with the community, with the Hollywood Editing Mentor community. We hang out for an hour. We have our tea or whatever you want to drink. And, I sit there and I answer questions, or I bring up a topic that we can all discuss. And I also make it, to me, it's also a networking event. I think I tell people that it's a way to come in here and, meet other like-minded people, share your information, friend request each other. You never know who you can meet. It's a great way to work on your networking skills, and also simply to have fun and like I said, talk with like-minded people. We always talk about editing films. Last time we were talking about, again, leading a healthy lifestyle, what everyone does to kind of stay active and how what they cook, to eat healthy. We're just talking, having a good time. So I encourage you to check those out on the Hollywood Editing Mentor Facebook page, facebook.com/Hollywood Editing Mentor. You can find all this information obviously on the website. But anyways, I do a lot. So, but I also then offer a one-on-one service. If someone wants to work with me one-on-one, I do offer that service. And so I do have 4-week and 8-week programs where we meet one-on-one once a week for either 4 weeks or 8 weeks. And we meet for an hour and a half and we go over, we discuss the challenges or obstacles that people are facing and what they want to work on. So if it's like a lot of people say they want to work on networking, they have, they want to, or if they want to know more about how to do the assistant editor job on scripted TV shows, I will show them how to do that on the Avid. Go over resumes, developing a healthier lifestyle. I mean, it's all custom built or custom tailored to the mentee. So then that is also, it is a service that I offer. And soon I will be having online digital courses that are not one-on-one, but, it'll be a video library of, in certain topics. So, again, it's a lot of stuff on Avid or simply networking skills, developing networking skills, all these things that'll help you on your journey to achieving your career goals. And so I do offer, so then I do this, you can book a free one-on-one session, 30 minutes, we'll talk. There's no commitment, nothing. You just want to chat. I do offer that. You can come on the website here, hollywoodeditingmentor.com, and book a free session. And so here we go. It's like some of the services that include our soft skills development, improve communication, productivity, relationships, time management, and problem solving to help advance your career. Assistant editor training. You can learn the assistant editor Avid skills and workflows necessary to work on Hollywood scripted TV shows. Network building. This is a big one. It's all about networking. That is something that took me a while to figure out, and it's an art, and that's a big one. That's a huge one. So we definitely discuss that and develop a plan or strategies for the mentee to become better at networking. As someone who then, as an assistant editor, I was then promoted to editor. I'm now, my last editing credit was, or my last editing, credit was on Narcos Mexico. And so I've now transitioned to being a full-time editor in Hollywood. And so then there's also strategies to that. It's just layers of stuff that I certainly did not know how to, it's all managing relationships, politics, more so than anything than say how good you are of an editor. Of course, you got to know how to edit, but I think there's other more important things. In general, what I push a lot is this soft skills, idea, because we often get too stuck on this technical, these technical things that we just have to be the best, editor, the best sound designer, the best graphic, whatever VFX guy or person. And it's about relationships. That's very important. That'll get you further in this career, either to break in, to get new opportunities, or to simply progress or get promoted, say, in your career. So, so I do, yes, they're all one-on-one sessions. And then also some career transition guidance. As someone who was working in unscripted, I was able to transition. It's very hard to transition from an unscripted career. So say, or if you're working in news, your promos, documentaries, and then to transition to, say, Hollywood films or scripted TV shows, it can be very difficult. And so I was able to do it. And so, I can advise people on how to go about that, which strategies work best for everyone. And I want to point out, though, that this is, I tell people that, there's no set way of doing things. I can tell you something. I certainly can teach you a strategy, but it doesn't mean just because it worked for me doesn't mean it'll work for you. So this is not end all be all. It is not, okay, do this. There's a formula. No. And everyone will tell you, anyone who's been successful in this industry will tell you the same thing. And so the idea of this is to listen to someone who has done it, who has, been successful in their career, and to see what things, have worked for them or for that person. And then what can you take and apply them to your journey, to your, way of working, because we're all different. We all have different personalities, different work ethic. So that's the idea. Always remember, when you talk to someone, not just me, anyone, just remember, there's no set way of doing things. You need to find out what works for you. And so I encourage you to have a sign-up sheet here. Sign up for the founding members group. You'll receive a lot of future updates, free content, and exclusive offers. Like I said, I do offer the one-on-one service, and I will soon have digital courses. So I will be offering exclusive offers to the founding members group. Sign up by going to hollywoodeditingmentor.com. And for example, I have this advice section here. All the stuff that I talk about, how do I avoid burnout? I did 2 parts of this. It's about, I talk about 2 things, time management and taking care of my mind and my body by eating right, exercising, and getting the right amount of sleep every night. I'm collaborating with my good friend Agustin Rexach, mi hermano Boricua. He is awesome dude. He is now contributing articles and content for the website, and he's also a editor / assistant editor. He's currently in that transition phase to becoming an editor, full-time editor. But he's worked on recently shows for Showtime, The Good Lord Bird. He also worked on co-edited an episode of The Purge for USA, and worked for as an assistant editor on Genius for Nat Geo. So he's working on great shows, and so he actually offers some great advice. He's contributing now to this website. I offer, the continuity sheet. It's something that it's a continuity sheet. It's a document in the scripted TV world that is such a really literally a mystery. Everyone is so curious about it. You can't find really examples of it, but I'd say online. But we use it constantly in the scripted TV workflow. So I just show people what it is and how to fill it out. I do a lot of tutorials how I organize my Avid projects for scripted TV. I just show you how I do it. And again, I say to you, the person in the video, I say, just because I do it this way doesn't mean that you should do it the same way. I'm just showing you how I do it, getting some ideas. I did a live chat with my good friend, Garrett Donnelly. Garrett has worked on Narcos Mexico, Nosferatu, Nightfall, 24 Legacy, Homeland. He's a big editor and one of my mentors. And so we had a talk when people were able to ask questions live. This one is a very popular one, how to join the union. Again, I didn't know how to join the union, and I did a video about how to join it. And so people have really enjoyed this, and because I just know there's so many questions out there about joining the union. I did an interview here with my friend Beto. So as you can see, it's all over the place. All these things are essential to either, breaking into Hollywood or breaking into the post-production world and say documentary, promos, reality, whatever it is. These are all concepts that'll help you on your journey. And so it's all here. This is all free. But again, I do offer a paid service, a one-on-one service, if you do want to work directly with me, if you want to go deeper into these concepts, and so I have a bunch of events. As I was telling you, Afternoon Tea with Hollywood Editing Mentor. You can always check it out. Try to do it like once every 3 weeks. And it's just usually a Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, for an hour there. And I just hang out and I answer questions, or we have a discussion about something. It's a good networking event, and it's just fun to meet other like-minded people. Like I said, I did my live stream Q&A with my friend Garrett. And so a lot of events. You can find out more about me in the program by going to the About section. Kind of tells you more about why I did it. Read that story. And, you can see some of my experience here, what I've done. I mean, you start from the bottom there, like, you can see what I've progressed through. I mean, in my career, it's like I started off in local news. I went to promos, the docuseries, feature documentary, sports, a talk show, a Kids' Choice Sports Awards, another talk show, Player versus Player. Then I went to being an assistant editor on a Netflix documentary. Again, assistant editor. You can see it right there. You can just see it, how I progressed in the career. And then see it became an assistant editor. And eventually then now I'm I have my dream job, I guess, working as an editor in Hollywood, and scripted TV shows and film. A little bit about my approach, how I approach. Like I said, I like to be open with people. I like to have a very personal conversation. I think this is I want to create a safe space for people to share their stories, their feelings, and we can definitely talk about and develop, like I said, a way to overcome certain challenges. But it's all one-on-one, and it's about building a relationship. That's the important thing about building a relationship. And it's important that, I ask here, are you self-aware? I think it's the mentees, think it's necessary to be self-aware and to be open to criticism or, constructive criticism and feedback. Because it's like, that's the only way that we're going to improve. And so I think that's a very open question that everyone needs to ask themselves before, working with me one-on-one. that's kind of like the general information about this. I want to say I am launching a podcast on Tuesday. This Tuesday, launching a podcast. I'm going to be talking to editors, assistant editors, all working in great projects, and they're going to share their experiences, some tips on on say editing. They're going to give us some insights into some big shows. Some of the shows that we're talking about are HBO's Insecure, Narcos, The Boys for Amazon, Euphoria on HBO. These are all very successful editors, very hardworking editors that, have gone through a lot and they've learned a lot to get to where they are. And so I don't only want you to hear from me, but I want you to hear from other people who are even more successful than me and hear their advice. And you'll hear common themes. You can see that I'm not making this stuff up, right? These are all people doing the same exact thing. People who have been doing it longer than I have, who are much more successful. These are Emmy-winning editors, and we talk about the same concepts. It's a fact, and it's just more about how can you apply this information to your strategies and to your journey. But that's coming this on Tuesday. I'm going to launch it with 3 episodes. So check it out. It'll be on HollywoodEditingMentor.com. But make sure to sign up for the email list. You can go to the website, put your name in here, email. I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to be bothering you. And, it's like, I'm not, all I want to do is help you out. I'm conscious of that, of like just, flooding your inbox. It's only good content that's going to help you out. And so sign up at HollywoodEditingMentor.com and sign up for the list. We'll stay in touch. And also you can find me on you can find all the links here: Facebook, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. All the information's on there. Everything is on there. So yeah, I'm gonna see if any questions. Any questions? I'm gonna go through this.
Sure.
Oh, there you are. Here, someone's there.
I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, you know that usually you learn to edit on Premiere or Avid.
Yes.
But you mentioned that the work that you had, you do it in Avid. So how you was able to learn Avid, or you know that long time ago it used to be Final Cut Pro. So how you were able to switch around?
I'll tell you a story of how I actually learned that. Well, first of all, I'll say this: if you want to work, first of all, if you want to work in Hollywood, if you want to work in feature films, and scripted TV shows, you need to know Avid. That is the first thing that I'll say. That is, you must know Avid. How did I learn it? Actually, when I was in New York, I had worked at Final Cut for my entire career, and I was in New York, and I got this job. And when I went to the interview, they said, "Oh yeah, we use Avid." I'm like, "Oh my god!" Okay. It's like and so I had to be honest. And then so they said to me, "Oh yeah, cool. The job starts in 2 weeks." So guess what? I had 2 weeks to learn Avid, and so I basically pulled up tutorials. This, I'm talking about now. That's almost probably 10 years ago. Nowadays, there's so much free content out there about how to learn either Avid, Premiere, any software right now. There's no excuse to not learn it. It's free. But that's how I learned it. I learned it from tutorials, and then I just learned on the job. And so I would, get some, practice media, or I would go shoot, with my camera, whatever, shoot some footage and then edit it together on Avid. And that's how I learned it. The transition from Final Cut to Avid was pretty hard. It took me a while, but, eventually, you just keep doing it and it was fine.
What transferable skills you had from working on, like TV rather than working on film and also TV series? Like what you was able to bring that also help you to be able to become the editor that you are today?
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's a good question. And actually, one of the podcasts that I'm launching with, we're going to talk about this idea. My friend Augie Agustin Rexach, a big shout out to him. Talks about the idea that there's no wasted work. There's no wasted work. So what did I learn? I worked in live TV for many years. I learned to keep cool under pressure. And so to me, now I have the ability to stay focused and not stress out and freak out when things are kind of chaotic, and so when I have a producer behind me, I just keep cool, because trust me, there was times working in live TV where I'm running down the hallway with my tape or whatever to make the 6 o'clock news or the 11 p.m. Talk show, and I'm running to the control room. And so I learned how to just stay cool. That's a big one. But many others. I mean, like working in promos. I mean, I learned to tell a story. And say 30 seconds, 60 seconds. I mean, with those things, a commercial, promos, you're telling a story in such a short amount of time. And so my storytelling ability improved. So many things. Just simply being fast on Avid. Just simply being fast. I mean, you had to be fast when working on live TV, and so all those things certainly transfer to film and scripted TV.
I think we have a question here. In your advice videos on your Hollywood Editing Mentor website, will you ever consider discussing your aesthetic approach? For instance, analyzing a scene from Narcos Mexico that you edited, also making an aesthetic decision while under time pressure?
Yes, I'm glad you bring that up, Kathleen. Thanks for your question. Yes, I do. I'm working on putting together some type of workshop, related to that, to editing, whether it be Narcos Mexico or any other project I worked on. I know definitely people are interested in Narcos Mexico. The workflow is very interesting. Given that it's a show that a lot of it is in Spanish, so there's a certain workflow, and I think people will find it very interesting. But yes, that is coming soon. So sign up for the email list, HollywoodEditingMentor.com, and you'll know when that is up.
You also mentioned that you had to go to a lot of networking events. How you was able to improve your elevator pitch in order to start a conversation?
One thing that I did, so a couple things about that. I realized, first of all, that the networking, in order to be networking to be effective, it had to be more about getting to know someone, not necessarily being, hey, here, my name is Joaquin and I'm looking for a job. That's not the way to do it. No one's gonna, that's not gonna work. I can just tell you directly, it's not gonna work. You have to build a relationship with someone. And so that was the first thing that I realized, that it was about that. It was about staying in touch. Hopefully we could, have a coffee later, or meet up, whatever it is, or send emails, messages. Hey, how you doing? Checking up on them. So, which meant it was going to take time. It takes time to develop a relationship. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. One specific thing that I did, though, to kind of get over, say, being shy, or to be able to approach people better, I used to be part of this group, this post-production, community, a group that they would have monthly mixers. I think it was like the one Saturday out of the month, and they had a registration table where people would come in, and it was usually at a bar, or in Hollywood, and they put a registration table. You would come up, people would have to go there, and they would have to fill out a name tag to put them on, but they had to go through that table. What did that mean? So I volunteered to be at that table for 2 hours every event, and that would force me to say hi to everyone. First of all, people would get to know me. I would get to know people, and it would just help me practice simply saying hello to someone and breaking the ice and starting a conversation. That was a very specific thing that I did to get me better at simply approaching someone.
Nice. We have Justo Cruz, that he's joining in from Dominican Republic.
¿Qué pasa, Justo?
Me gustaría que también hables un poquito de lo que es Hollywood Mentorship, lo hables también un poquito en español, porque
Perfecto.
definitivamente hay personas que quizás de Latinoamérica no tienen la oportunidad de ingresar a una universidad para estudiar
Claro, claro.
y también están haciendo sus trabajitos allá en
No, claro.
su
En
país.
Hollywood, aquí, sí. Sí, no, pues lo que me está diciendo el Hollywood Editing Mentor Program, que se puede encontrar aquí en hollywoodeditingmentor.com, es como un programa de tutoría, ¿no? O sea, es para yo compartir mis experiencias durante mi carrera de postproducción, siendo editor ya ahora por casi 20 años, y que siempre tuve un sueño de trabajar en Hollywood, ¿no? En cine, en series de televisión, que siempre, nunca lo quería hacer, fue mi sueño, pero nunca supe cómo hacerlo. O sea, no hay nada de información ahí en el internet ¿verdad? O sea, que te explique exactamente cómo hacer esto. No es como que los trabajos están en línea. No, eso no existe. Entonces, a través de mi experiencia es que yo tuve en mi carrera y cuando pude, ahora sí, pues me dieron la oportunidad de trabajar en cine y en series de televisión en Hollywood. Yo pasé por muchas cosas, ¿no? O sea, aprendí cómo eh, desarrollar relaciones o sea, amistades con gente que me pudo dar oportunidades, simplemente cómo escribir mi currículum, o sea, ese tipo de preguntas, ¿no? Pero solo fue con yo tratándolo, fracasé varias veces, pero cada vez que se me cerraba una puerta o que perdí una oportunidad, lo usaba como una manera de aprender, ¿no? Decía, bueno, ¿qué hice mal? ¿Qué puedo cambiar? En lugar de decir, bueno, desanimarme, decir, ¿sabes qué? Esto nunca lo voy a poder hacer. Decidí yo que yo iba a hacer lo que sea para poder alcanzar mi sueño, que era trabajar en cine y en series, ¿no? En Hollywood. Y entonces fui aprendiendo y así aprendí. Y claro, fue un proceso, así te puedo decir, 1 año, 2 años. Y fue difícil, ¿no? Esto es lo que le digo a la gente, no es fácil. Bueno, a lo mejor para cierta gente sí es fácil, pero para mí no fue fácil y creo que mucha gente pudiera estar de acuerdo conmigo que pues no es algo muy fácil, ¿no? Poder entrar aquí hasta lo que es de Hollywood o lo que es de cine y series. Y entonces aprendí y pues decidí comenzar este programa para poder enseñarle a la gente y qué es lo que pueden hacer si esos son también sus sueños, si tienen ese deseo de trabajar como editores, ya sea en documentales, en promos, comerciales, noticias, lo que sea, pero para explicarles que sabes que sí se puede hacer esto. Sí se puede. No, es que es la verdad. Sí se puede, es nomás, ¿verdad? O sea, alguien, un mentor, ¿no? O sea, que ocupes alguien que te enseñe, que te guíe. Yo lo tuve en el sentido que tuve mucha gente que me ha ayudado en mi carrera y aunque me ayudaron mucha gente, también tuve que poner de mi parte y simplemente tratar cosas a ver si funcionaban o no. Y así aprendí. Y entonces lo que estoy haciendo yo también aquí con esto y también que la gente sepa que también estamos los latinos aquí trabajando en la industria, ¿no? Quiero darle una cara a nuestra comunidad y para que sepan que sí se puede, que sí existen esas oportunidades. Aquí yo soy mexicano, crecí en Tijuana y digo, claro, hay una escasez, creo que de latinos. Estamos haciendo ahorita el esfuerzo para poder darles esas oportunidades a la comunidad latina y ya sea ahora sí con este programa, yo estar ahí disponible para hablar con gente o también ir a escuelas y a educar a la gente y decirles, hey, existe esta carrera y sí, pues, sí hay una oportunidad para ti si es que si lo deseas. Entonces, también eso es parte de este programa, ¿no? De ayudarnos a nosotros como latinos y a la comunidad latina.
Sí, definitivamente vamos a tener que poner ese website también algunos videos y algunos artículos en español
Español, ya sé, ya me convenciste, ya ahora sí, ya me estoy viendo mal yo y ok, ya estuvo.
para que entonces la comunidad también pueda aprender
Claro,
un poquito el workflow y todo esto
me
a
parece buena idea.
a la hora de
Excelente.
sus trabajos. Ya justo dijo, ahora sí lo entendí.
Sí, perdón, ahí media hora hablando, dijo, ¿qué está diciendo
Y entonces,
este muchacho?
te va a estar contactando, te va a estar contactando.
Sí, igual ahí, tío, ahí está todo mi contacto en hollywoodeditingmentor.com y se puede ahí poner su nombre y dirección, correo electrónico para agregarse a la lista.
Sí, hace falta que sea en español, me dice.
Excelente, claro.
Ya él va a estar trabajando eso también.
No, sí, mi amigo, tío, Agustín Rexach es puertorriqueño también, alguien que creció en la isla, y llegó, fue por Miami, luego San Antonio, por fin llegó a Los Ángeles y por fin alcanzó, ¿verdad? Le dieron esa oportunidad y ya está trabajando en Hollywood. Entonces, somos dos personas que, ¿verdad? Que pasamos por lo mismo, trabajamos casi en lo mismo y nos entendemos, así que queremos dar eso, ayudar también, tío, a la comunidad latina.
Sí, bueno, ya estamos llegando a la parte final, así que si tienen alguna pregunta, we're almost at the end, so if you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Por favor, aquí estamos, pregúntenme lo que gusten. Muy suave todo esto, ¿eh? Qué bueno, felicidades por un gran evento.
No, gracias a ti por aceptar la invitación.
Claro.
Let me see, I think we have one here. Here it is.
Ahí veo cierta gente que conozco, andan ahí espiando.
Aquí te puse una. Thank you for doing this. I know this could be a trick one, but my question is, do you still think it's possible to start a Hollywood film editor career without being physically in LA or the US? Any advice about that? Thank you.
Yes, that's a very good question, and I can tell you that the answer is yes. And I'll talk about it specifically in a bit, but I did record a podcast recently about that talks with someone who was not in LA and was able to break into the industry by not being in LA. What I will say is this. Well, I think eventually, yes, no, you have to be in LA. You can start communicating outside of LA. You can start working contacts by not being in LA, especially right now. We're all communicating through, video conferencing and everything. So it's a perfect opportunity to meet with people because people are just more open to it and people have time right now. And so you can definitely start making contacts by not being in LA. But eventually, yes, you will need to be here. For example, I'm going to go back to work eventually and we will be working from home for, I don't know how long. But I still need to be here. I still need to be in LA. And especially as someone who is starting out, you do eventually need to be here. But can you start contacting people and even get a job? Yes, and I will share a podcast that talks about that specific experience. So the answer would be yes.
Bueno,
good question.
Por aquí tenemos unos comentarios muy buenos. Patricia Montoya dice, te voy a buscar.
Búscame.
Que viva Tijuana.
¡A huevo!
Caitlin, si se puede, thanks for sharing your story
claro
about
que sí.
experience. What if you want to work outside the industry as an independent filmmaker?
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, depending I know people that just work on, say, as editors, work in independent films. Certainly, those are careers that people have. And so, yes, I mean, the thing is here in LA, there's a lot of work. There's so much production here. And, even the thing is about post-production is that even though a show or a movie is going to be shot anywhere in the world, the post-process, the editing is done in LA. That's the thing. Sure, sometimes you might have to go during production and be, say, on set for a couple weeks, couple months. but eventually things end up back in LA. So the LA is a post-production hub, really, for the most part. And so, but yeah, there's so much stuff here. Yeah, certainly people are always doing indie films. There's that route for sure.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Ya estamos cortos de tiempo, pero
Okay.
¿Quién es tu editor favorito?
Hombre, aquí nos vamos a quedar 3 horas hablando de esto. No, bueno, para mí...
¿O alguna película,
sí.
o alguna película que te haya encantado de la edición?
Sí, para mí, lo que a mí me llamó la atención a lo que es la edición y el cine en general fue Martin Scorsese y Thelma Schoonmaker. Claro, clásico, mucha gente te va a decir lo mismo, pero por buena razón. Es cuando fui cuando la primera vez que dije, ¿qué es esto de edición, no? Y aparte, el estilo de dirigir y las películas que dirige Martin Scorsese fue lo que, la verdad, a mí me inspiró desde una temprana edad para querer trabajar en cine. Esa fuera mi respuesta, la verdad.
Y por último, ¿qué 3 elementos debería tener un buen editor? What 3 a good editor should have, or an assistant editor, somebody that really, want to go to the next level?
I think, a lot of patience. That's one. The desire to collaborate. I'm probably gonna name more than 3. A patience, tolerance, the desire to collaborate. Checking your ego at the door. That's another podcast episode, and that's a big conversation. Check your ego. Do not think, we have to remember that as editors, we are servicing someone else's vision. That's the thing. Some people want to come in and as editors and want to lead the show, and you need to understand that there's someone, you're working for someone. You're creating someone's vision. And so it's very important to check that ego. Don't bring that ego into the room, because you're going to get constant notes from directors, producers, and network. And so that is a very, very important one. And simply just having a positive attitude, getting along with people. Again, this industry works on relationships. You need to keep a positive attitude. Be someone that people want to hang out with, that you bring joy to the room. And, as you can see, I'm not even talking about being what you do on Avid. Like, those are things that, sure, they're important. You got to know what you're doing, but there's other things that are much more important that I think will, help you have, either break into whatever post-production career you want to have, or simply advance in your career. Así que, y en español, pues, ser positivos, colaborar con gente, estar dispuestos a colaborar y a recibir crítica, muy importante, porque esto se trata de colaborar. Esto se trata de que tenemos que acordarnos que como editor estamos trabajando para alguien, ¿no? Es la visión de alguien más, de un director, de un productor. Entonces, tenemos que estar dispuestos a recibir crítica o notas, lo que sea, ¿no? Para que la gente, porque si uno no acepta eso, van a batallar, la verdad, en este business. Y así que, pues, simplemente mantener una actitud positiva y que que la gente quiera, pues, ahora sí, convivir con uno y así te van a dar más oportunidades.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Joaquín, por sacar de tu tiempo. Y no
ustedes.
Sacar de tu tiempo, sino también porque has pensado cómo educar a las comunidades, y eso es algo bien importante, porque una cosa es film school y otra cosa es el trabajo real. Así que,
exacto.
Yay! Thank you for creating Hollywood Editing Mentor.
No, gracias a ustedes.
Vamos a estar ahí de vez en cuando echándotelo.
Bueno, claro que sí.
Poco a poco, porque es importante. It's important that we keep forward and we keep learning, porque esto es un trabajo que todo el tiempo está cambiando y tenemos que aprender a innovar.
Exacto, eso es muy importante. Esto está cambiando y poder, cómo estamos, ponerle atención a que estamos evolucionando, cambiando, pero estar consciente de eso, pues. y ya después cómo le hacemos, cómo lo que aprendemos, pues ya vemos, pero simplemente estar consciente que las cosas están cambiando y que tenemos que nosotros también cambiar y ajustarnos y aprender siempre. Yo sigo aprendiendo cada rato. Así que
Bueno, pues muchas gracias. Te envío un abrazo y acá
igualmente,
todas mis amistades aquí que estamos aquí, Catalina también. Así
saludos.
que un gusto y seguimos en comunicación. Hasta la próxima.
Excelente, muchas gracias.